Okay, so Detective Phil's been on it. I've been trying for ages with the blowtorch, and I even have another canister for it, a massive one. I've been trying and trying. I've been using WD-40 on it, I've been using a drift, 2 different hammers, won't come off. However, if you look around this side, you see those lines there? Somebody has been at it with an angle grinder before to get the pin out. So I don't know what that's about. But also these screws down the bottom here, in fact, all the screws that hold the transmission cover on, not that one, but all the screws that hold the transmission cover on around the bottom edge there were finger tight at best. So that would explain why it was leaking ATF everywhere, and possibly that could be where the rattling was coming from. However, turning this, don't know if you can hear that, I think it is the bearings, to be honest. So the question is, if I undo all these screws, will the whole lot lift off, including whatever the kickstart shaft is attached to? And if so, can I then rebuild the engine without removing that cotter pin? I was hoping to do a proper real-time rebuild video about this, and I still might do once I got this off, but obviously this is an unknown, so it's not going to be a very good how-to if I don't know what the hell's going on, is it? So anyway, I'll take these off and we'll take it from there. Looky here, all in one piece. Literally just undid all the screws. That one you can't see, but this one here appears to be some sort of drain plug. Not sure why, because there's a drain plug in there, this large one here. But yeah, so we would seem to be able to carry on. Here's what it looks like inside. Excellent. Okay, that screw there, which is one of the 3 screws that adjust the timing, and in fact that one too, don't look like they're screwed down very well. In fact, it looks like I could almost move the timing plate. They also look like they're at full adjustment in one direction, which they shouldn't be, so that would make it too advanced, I think. So part of the noise might have been pinking or pre-ignition or something timing related like that. So, someone's definitely been here before. Next up, I'm going to remove the front sprocket, some circlip pliers. One circlip. Sprocket looks in good condition, but I'll clean it up. And another circlip underneath. Next up, I remove the flywheel nut, and for that I'm going to use a piston stop, which is a bit controversial because you can ruin the bearings on your crank. The big end bearings, which are very difficult to replace, you have to send the crank off to get remanufactured, so normally people just get a new crank. However, I'm just going to be careful, basically, that's all you can do. If you don't want to damage your crank or anything like that, you can avoid using a petcock by using a strap wrench, which is what I've got here. Basically just straps around here, and then there's a bit of a knack to this. There we are. Okay, so in the absence of a piston stop, I'm using the rope trick to keep the piston from moving, which should allow me to take that nut off. However, using this thing, I've managed to wound myself, so I'm resorting to an actual impact gun, so that's what we're going to go with. Let's put you on the makeshift hilarious stand, which is 3 magnetic darts on a cement mixer. got it. Nut, washer, ring, clutch plate, clutch cover plate thing, and there's the clutch. We need a puller to get that out, which I have in my coffee tin of pullers and stuff, which is also where my piston stop should live. So these screw in there. I like to do them as far as they go so they're both even, and then this middle one goes in, providing you don't cross thread it. Very important to get it centralised on the end of there. That should be about right. 19mm, same as the 19mm, same as the middle nut was on the clutch. And then that's the wrong way. Go this way with it. There is the clutch, 3-shoe clutch. Very nice. Looks like plenty of meat on it as well. As far as I know, most kickstarts are 3-shoe clutch anyway, or all of them actually, I think. So it's not that special. But you get people swapping kickstart clutches into pedal start engines because I think they're heavier springs and perhaps heavier clutch arms as well. So they give you different performance and takeoff, which when you're tuning is fairly important. Instead of this bit, you can use, where is it? I read somewhere you can use this, which is the bit that holds the kickstart on, because it's got these two holes here, and then you can use something through there. I think these two holes are redundant in its function as a kickstand holder, but I think you can then screw something in there and have the same effects. But I've never tried it, and I've got two of these tools, so I might as well use them. Circuit next. Find my circuit pliers. So in here we have a circlip. Can you see any of this? Yeah, we have a circlip holding on what looks like a couple of washers and the clutch basket. So I'm on the wrong side for this really, but let's try it from this angle. In fact, I could just turn it around, couldn't I? Not really. I'll turn me round instead. Got to say, I'm not a giant fan of circlips, really. But they do definitely do the job they're intended for. There we are. Oh, good job I got spares, eh? Oh, here it is. One circlip. One meaty washer. One clutch bell. Now we can see inside here the main gear. All this looks in pretty good nick, really. Next job then is take the top end apart. Now I wouldn't normally use the rope trick if I wasn't taking the head off afterwards, because if you get any bits of rope stuck in the ports or anything like that, it can leave melted nylon in your engine and all sorts of things. You don't want it. But luckily I knew that I was going to be taking it all the way apart. I need a 10mm, 10mm long socket. Off come the head bolts. Ooh, I almost forgot. There's the, whatever the hell you call that, the name escapes me at the moment. It's like a sort of bronze bushing, that's it. It's basically like a bearing for the clutch. This one looks to be in really good condition. It maybe even was replaced recently, I'm not sure. They are a bit of a bugger because you have to ream them out if you buy a fresh one, which I've done in a previous video using a biro and some sandpaper. Right, the whole studs come out for that one. I won't show you all of this, but I'm also going to take this intake off, which you don't have to do, but I've got replacement gaskets for it, and also if I can find one, I've got one somewhere that doesn't have this little stub on it. Since I'm deleting the oil injection, that's not required. Also, these are really loose, so perhaps it wasn't put together very well, which might explain for some of the sound if that's rattling around. Anyway, I'll come back to you in a minute when the top end's off. What, the currents? Yeah, they're probably ready. So you can see the marks where it was seized into the cylinder. This is a high compression piston, which means that it only has one piston ring. I don't know how that works, because you'd think two piston rings would make for higher compression due to sealing better, but the single ring ones are the high compression ones. I don't know if I can get a replacement one, but this one doesn't actually look too bad anyway. Okay, so it's time to break out the impact screwdriver. This is very handy because we've now got all these flathead screws on the bottom here to take out. And if you just try a normal screwdriver, they're going to strip out because they're in really tight. So, impact screwdriver pushes down as it twists. It's the perfect tool for this job. First check that it's going the right way by pushing down on it. As you can see, it's turning that way, which is lefty-loosey. And then it's time. Go at them one by one and loosen them off. It's normally a good idea to put a wood block under your engine, actually. I'll try that. Hang on. Right, let's try now.
Just lather, rinse, repeat for all the rest of them. Whoa. And make sure your cylinder doesn't fall off the table. That's all of them loose. Now it's just a case of unscrew them. Nearly forgot, there's two more sneaky ones in here. One that side, and one right at the bottom there. Can't really see it, can you? There's one. There's the other. Let's get them as well. Okay, so that's all the screws out. There's two different sizes. There's the long ones and the short ones. The long ones, there's 5 of. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then that one and all the other ones are the short ones. And the one that came out of here appears to be covered in all the creamy oil and water mixture, sort of ATF oil. So somewhere around there I imagine we're going to find a load of that. So basically I'm just going to put the bolts on to soak with some brake cleaner, and then set to with splitting the case. Now this is the point where you'd remove the piston by taking these circlips either end of the gudgeon pin out and then pressing the pin through, taking care not to put too much sideways pressure on the crank. I still haven't decided what I'm doing with this yet. I may well keep this piston. You can see where it was, let me wipe it up. You can see there where it was seized onto the cylinder, but actually it's still really smooth. You can't feel it at all when you run your fingers over it. So it may be that I just clean this piston up and we check the cylinder. There's also immense amounts of shite in there, so I don't know what all that is. It looks like almost there was some dust in the engine and it's all got contaminated up with the two-stroke oil and shit. So there was a spot somewhere around here where if you hit it with a rubber mallet, not a metal one, it should hopefully split this case apart because all the screws are out. Don't hit your finger though. Right, now, there we are. Take the top off. You can see all the clonge in there. That shouldn't be there. But actually, other than a bit of milky residue in there, it looks pretty clean really. It's a good sign. Okay, so here are the parts we're replacing. So we've got an oil seal there, a bearing, an oil seal right up against the crank, the snap ring bearing, and then on here, this is a 2-bearing one. So we've got a bearing inside the case here, and another bearing with a seal, and in between there is a snap ring that's sort of loose, which fits in the groove there, and that's just to stop it going across. So here's the main gear. You're looking for broken teeth and rust and things inside the teeth, but it looks to be in really good condition, so I'm glad about that. And then the crank, which I can't lift out one-handed. Let me put you down. And there is our problem. Whoa, there's the problem. That bearing is full of whatever this black shite is. It's making a terrible noise. If you go like that, the piston's going to go side to side. But if you hold the crankshaft at the top, the conrod I mean, see there's very little side to side play there, which is good. And then up and down play, there's practically none. It rolls really well. So this is a good crankshaft. Luckily, none of this black stuff seems to have worked its way into there. Need to wash these case halves out now, because they're absolutely clattered up.
So we're going to remove the seals and bearings from the crankshaft. This is the first seal. They are 17 by 40 by 7 double-lipped seals. This one's full of all that black stuff. And there is the bad bearing. Now, all the seals are the same on this. 17 by 40 by 7 double-lipped. All the bearings are the same. 6203 C3 clearance, which is important because it means they've got room to expand when they get hot. Except for the snap ring bearing, which is a 6203 NR, which just basically stands for snap ring. So that bearing's goosed. The piston, I'm just going to keep it. I'm not even going to sand it down because I think actually I'll put more marks in it by sanding it because it's just so smooth. There's nowhere on it that I think will cause any problem at all to the cylinder or compression. The ring looks good. So I'm just going to hone the cylinder, I think, and go with that. Inside, I can't see anything in there that's going to affect the small end bearing. I believe there's a roller bearing in this one. Some other engines have a press fit brass bushing in there or bronze bushing. So I seem to have got quite lucky in that none of the non-replaceable bearings have suffered from the Black Death, meaning that we can just do a standard rebuild with bearings and seals rather than having to send the crank off to be redone or more likely buy a race crank. So yeah, bearing, seals, send it.
Okay, so this is the setup for bearing removal. There's the bearing we're removing with the seal in front of it. The seal obviously will just pop off. Easy way to remember which side the snap ring bearing goes. There's your snap ring bearing. And then there is a circlip groove for the clutch bell. So it's on the clutch side, you can identify it with the circlip groove. So basically, it's just a case of, right, so there's a socket on the end, a 17mm socket, and I'm just literally going to screw in this screw here. This die is clamped around the bearing and it should just draw it off basically. Simple as that. It's very difficult to do at this angle, but what can I say, I'm a trooper. Then when it gets to the taper it should just fall off basically, like that. There we are. And this is our shot bearing. And let's focus you in, if we can. It's just full of shite, look at that. It's just caked up with crap. So, good job of replacing that one. Do the snap ring one next, and then the two on the main gear, and then we're off. This one's a little bit easier because you can get, there's the seal behind it, so you can get behind that seal, whereas the other one was right up to the crank webs.
In this shot you get a perfect view of the circlip that stops that bearing coming off. I, for some reason, didn't see it though, so make sure that you remove it before you try and remove the bearing, otherwise you look like a twat like I did.
Right, time to go again. With this picture then, it's another sneaky circlip I need to get out. So, main gear bearings. I've moved on to the flat tip on there because it hasn't got the little indent in the end to locate into like it has on the crankshaft. And basically, these bearings don't tend to wear out as much because I think there's a 7-to-1 ratio, so for every revolution that this does, the crankshaft's done 7 revolutions. I could be wrong about 7-to-1, but it's something like that, maybe 6-to-1, I can't quite remember now. So basically these have had a 6th or a 7th of the use. But we're in here, we might as well change them. It's just a case of pull them off. That one is right up against the, well, it's level
with the end of the shaft that it's on. So that's how far on you need to put it back on. It's pretty much up against here as well. And this one is up against a snap ring there. So, and it goes, put the bearing on, then this little snap ring here in between, and then the seal. So let's get winding this off. One down, one to go. Yeah, this one should be slightly more interesting to do because we've got to try and locate on the end of this stupid thing for the redundant oil pump. So I suspect that this screw I'm currently undoing is going to keep popping off the end, and it's going to be a nightmare. I could use the pointy one, but it's going to splay those out and possibly make it more difficult to get the bearing and seal on. So I think we're just going to roll with the punches on this one and see how we do. Okay, so cunning plan. The smallest socket I've got, which will fit over that, which I think is a 17. I'm going to put that on there for stability and run that screw inside, presuming it fits and won't interfere with the bearing coming off. So I should be hopefully able to use that to stop it falling off the end of that stupid oil screw shit, oil pump thing. Nope, don't think that's going to work. Okay, so if this doesn't work, it's back to the drawing board. It's already at a daft angle. Excellent. Sounded like movement, looks a bit like movement. Not doing this any good at all. So what's happening is, I was hoping that would run down the inside of the socket, but it isn't. It's actually catching the socket and it's pulling against the socket. So I don't know how long this is going to be viable for until it starts compressing the bearing against the socket. We've had a little bit of movement, so you never know, it might be viable. Right, I'm going to wind it back from there and we'll check out. I don't want to damage my socket or my puller really either. All seems pretty intact really, all things considered. I wonder if I can get it without the socket now. What I could do really is a small metal sleeve that just goes over the end of there and the tip of this thing, but I ain't got nothing. Right, let's try some further thirtling. I'm going to go straight down with it. Oh, we're about to pop off. There we go. Who invented this shit? I need to hurry as well because time is running out at a rapid rate. Okay, so we can get the seal off, we can get the ring off. We're nearly at the end of there. See, normally it's just a flat end there, and you've got plenty of purchase for this thing, which is getting all a bit mashed up at the end with falling off. Hopefully, the final push. We're going sideways again. Well, that solves it. Just snap the fucking ends off it. Good God, man. It's just designed not to come off, isn't it? Never supposed to change this one. What to do now then? Keep going, I suppose. That's all you can do. Okay, so I was going to use a nylon hammer, but I don't have time to go and get it because it's down the bottom of the garden. And I thought, can I do it like this without destroying anything? And I'm sure you're all cringing, but I mean, how the hell am I going to get a puller on that? I'm going to have to grind it flat, I suppose. In fact, I'll have a half-hearted go at this, and then we'll come back to it next time I get a chance to work on it, which will unfortunately be next week. And yeah, I don't want to chew up this shaft. I don't really care about the bearing, obviously, even though it ironically seems totally fine. But you know, I bought a big pack. Look at that. But I can feel the notchiness. It's only slight. Yep, right. So I'll come back to this then on another occasion, unfortunately. Ha! There we are. So I accidentally knocked the other one of those stupid things off with a hammer, so I guess that pretty much solves the dilemma of whether or not I'm going to be putting that oil pump back on. Here's the bearing. Makes a bit of noise, so glad we replaced it. Right, let's get all this shit put away because my wife's home in a second.
Today is bearing day. I've got all the accoutrements that need bearings and seals. Here are the bearings. I'm using 3 of these FAG or FAG, I don't know how you pronounce it, 6203 C3s. C3 being the clearance, meaning that they've got enough room inside where when they get hot and expand they're not just going to seize up. And the other one, I couldn't get all the same brand, but I wanted decent make, so I've got FAG for those and NSK for these, and that is the snap ring bearing 6203 NR, NR meaning snap ring. Here is one of the C3 bearings. As you can see, it's got a metal cage. Here's one of the old bearings. It's actually one of the better ones that I took out the engine. It is still a bit crunchy in there, but it's all right. And that has a plastic cage in there, which is a very bad idea, I would say, because it gets hot and all the rest of it. It is a Steyr, as in Steyr Daimler Puch, who made it in the first place. So perhaps this is an OEM bearing, in which case I've no idea why they've used plastic. I would say if you're going to put it in an engine, metal's better than plastic, surely, just for durability. But anyway, it also wouldn't survive the next process, which is where you heat them up to put them in the engine in the mega toaster oven, which cost me, oh, the price sticker's worn off it. I think it was £7 years ago from a car boot sale. This is the first time I've been able to use it. I'm putting it in, complete guesswork here, at 210 for, well, I'm going to take it out after about 20 minutes. So yeah, they're going to heat up nicely and hopefully slide over these shafts without any issues. The seals I've got, I wanted nitrile seals. I couldn't afford them. The price difference is unreal, and you know, I don't have much of a budget ever, especially when I'm trying to build a workshop. So these are the seals. I can't remember the sizes offhand. 17 by 40 by 7. 1747 again, and this one is different, I believe. Let's get it out and have a look. Hang on. .22 by 40 by 7. So there we are. They're the 3 seals you need, and you need 4 bearings. So I'm going to put the snap ring bearing in now to heat up as well, and then let's get on with it. I've got some welding gloves that I can use because they're heat proof for putting them all back together. And then we'll have bearings and seals. Hooray! Hey guys, I think it's time. The bearings are about cooked. I have realised that this 22 by 40 by 7 seal is wrong, so that may hamper our efforts slightly. I may have to, I'm not sure yet because I've not had time to check, but I think I might end up just having to do one of the bearings on the main gear at a later date. Anyway, right, here goes. Let's get you focused. The trick with this is to work fast because the bearings will cool down very quickly. My welding glove on, and let's go. Snap ring bearing first, while she's still hot, straight on there, and as it cools it will shrink back down and stay put. Easy as that. On the other side we're having a C3 bearing, and they've all fallen down apart from this one. Ping. So, without getting burnt, one snap ring bearing, and then the seal goes next to that. Nice and hot. I think I may have overheated these a little bit, so perhaps it'd be better to do it at a slightly lower temperature of slightly less time. But I'm happy with this so far. Although I haven't quite put the snap ring bearing on far enough. I thought I'd pushed it right up to the circlip, but I haven't. Which is going to make it a lot more interesting for getting the other circlip on. Now the trick with this, I'll show you it, hang on. Now look, there's a little circlip groove just there, which isn't quite exposed. So the trick with that is to get either a long socket that fits over it, or apparently the seat post works from a Maxi, and just gently knock it down a bit more with that. So that's what I'll probably end up doing, which is a shame, because if I'd noticed that while it was still hot, then it wouldn't have been an issue, would it? I could have just pushed it up a bit further, but hey ho. So the next seal goes on facing that way towards the clutch, and now we'll go on to the main shaft.
Thanks for watching, guys. I'll leave you with the first start and ride after the engine rebuild, and my then 2-year-old son enjoying revving it a little bit. There will be another video on this because I've got some more parts to swap over onto it to finish it off, and I'll put it through an MOT as well in the next video on it. But until then, thanks again, and stay safe.
Ready, Smudge? Do it now, is it? Burn out, look. You want to be on that one, do you? What do you think, buddy? Do you want to... Come here, look. Twist that. Twist it there like that. Twist it. You do it. Turn it that way. That way.